Hey guys, Dennis here, and we got Alex, Muddy Water Search and Recovery. Hope
Hello,
everybody's
everybody.
doing good tonight.
Yes, hope
See
everybody's
Mac
doing
over
well.
here. Say, Mac, how you doing, man? So
We got Mac
I
on
don't know
board.
about where I don't know about where everyone's from tonight, but I know it has been cold up around here.
Yes,
We were like single
definitely.
digits this morning.
Yes, yeah. It was. I think today's high was like around 11 or 12, maybe. But yes, very very cold for sure.
So tonight we're basically going to kind of break down from the video that aired last night in regards to 2025, everything that took place in 2025 and going into what to expect with this coming year. And one of the things I want to do real quick is I mentioned in the video, one of the things we're going to do is when it comes to our underwater camera here, when we lower this down in the water right now, and Alex, you was there when we were doing a search on Randy's case and lowered it down a hole in the water, we could see really well. The problem is controlling what direction the camera is aimed at. So, I mean, you could do it vertical or horizontal, or you could do it, or I'm sorry, I had it right the first time, vertical or horizontal. But with the cord going in the water, you can't really control what direction it turns. So I'm going to be attaching this to an extender pole, and we'll be able to attach it on in the right direction so the camera is facing right. And we'll be able to control what angle we're looking at when we're using this. Because we do have several locations that this is going to be a big help with, and it's just going to be so much easier to control what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think with moving, ahead into the future, Dennis, you and I have discussed a few times about some kind of pole, some way to lower this camera in the water, but keep it stable. That way, we can lower it down. We can, manually turn it, try to hold it still, get some pictures, because it does take pretty decent pictures. It's just when you're trying to move it around and hold it by the cord, just the slightest twist or bump or something, it's just all over the place. So we got to figure out some way. And I guess in a way, the biggest issue is depth.
Right.
If we were going to do something that was 10 or 15 feet deep, okay, I know this sounds silly, but we could take like an extendable, like painter's pole or something like that. Or, we could use some kind of aluminum square tubing and make it to where we could fasten sticks together to get our correct depth. Something that's lightweight, something that's easy, but something that would give us a way to hold on to it and keep it steady. Because that is the problem. The slightest little bump or move, it just goes anywhere and everywhere. So we really need to figure out a way to keep it steady, to get a better picture. I'm not really sure this is something that Dennis and I will work on this winter, and try to figure out, because, the last time we used it, we were basically on top of a well, and we were looking down in the water. We had some accusations that Randy's remains could have been thrown in this well. So we were trying to get some images, and it, like I said, it was just all over the place. Right as you would get it still and you could actually look at the monitor and focus, it would instantly move on you. So not sure if this is something where if we're possibly looking into a well, we could fab up kind of like a tripod or something to lower the camera down to keep it still, to then somehow, move it. We don't know. This is something we're trying to come up with. Because that truly is the biggest thing, is holding it still. Our other options are a underwater drone of some sort. There is other search teams that use the underwater drones, and they have very good luck with them.
Yes.
And of course, there's cheaper ones all the way up to super expensive ones, and it really comes down to 720p, 1080p, 4K, 5K, 8K, so on and so forth. I think it matters if it's corded or if it's complete remote control wireless where there is no cord. So that's something else, we're going to take a look at and look into. Another thing that we have discussed with cameras and sonar is, and if you've seen, a lot of the other teams are now using them, is they have fabbed up little pontoon boats, RC boats, and they have put the sonar on them to where they can run them out. They are completely wireless, remote control. They run them out. They're, that's the only part I haven't technically really seen for sure, is if they have a monitor that is broadcasting to a handheld monitor, or if they are running it out and they're recording the footage and then they're viewing it on some kind of viewing monitor device. Dennis, have you exactly
some
how
of the units can use like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth and actually connect to your cell phone through an app, and I think ours will do that. I've got to get the brochure out and look at that and double check to see how that works. But some of those, they do have an app to where you could link that up to your phone and can see what it's looking at out there from the bank on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah, Adam Brown has one of those remote boats, Mac was saying, and I think he may have been the first one I've seen with one. I know Jacob with Chaos Divers had one for a while too. I don't know if he still does or not.
Well, I have, and I think we brought this up maybe on one of our other videos. So I had done some work this past summer, and I acquired a pontoon. I know this is crazy. So this was a pontoon irrigation boat used in I'll just say it, a poop pond. Hands down, it was a pontoon boat used in a poop pond to irrigate solid waste. So I had a whole trailer load of them from something I worked on for a friend, where I drug them out of the pond with an excavator. And I kept one of them. I kept the cleanest one. Of course, we can power wash it and clean it. But it had an electric motor on it, and it had a prop, and it ran up and down on cables. And that's how the process of irrigating poop ponds is they have a whole bunch of these on there. So I kept one, and Dennis and I had talked about fabbing up some kind of sonar on it, because it has an open center. It is square. It does kind of have a wedge on one end of it. I had looked at RC boat engines, because growing up, I was very big into RC cars back in the 80s and early 90s. So I have a lot of experience with, the radio gear, the servos, all that stuff. I never played with RC boats. I always had buggies and all that stuff because me and my brother used to race. That's something that we did with our dad. But we want to come up with something to have this for ourselves, because I think it would benefit us on some of our searches, some of our scenarios where we get into situations where I think, having this remote control unit set up with sonar or somehow having the camera mounted on it would benefit us in some of our searches. So that's something that, we might try to hopefully get to this winter. And if you did watch Dennis's video last night, he did talk about multiple things. And of course, we would like to get a bigger boat because right now we have an inflatable boat. And, with the sonar gear on it and Dennis, I don't think it's quite going to be safe with me and Dennis and the sonar gear on there together. So it kind of end up like the Titanic, I think. So, something we've talked about and we would like to do is definitely find some kind of flat bottom John boat. Some people, we've seen, I think Chaos Divers started off with a bass boat, and now they have more of kind of, it's got an enclosed cabin type patrol boat looking boat. So, we've discussed that, of course, safety first is our overriding priority to do this stuff. And it is hard for just one person to go out and try to drive and look at the sonar, and pay attention. So, this is something, moving into the future, one of the items that, we would like to acquire, whether we would be blessed to have a donation of some sort. I do buy stuff off the auctions. I do watch the government auctions. I've often wondered, if we could get a military spec boat or, just a regular government entity boat from, a police force or a fire, something like that. So, it's just one of the many things that, we would like to get. But, and once again, if you did watch last night's show, if you remember, Dennis explained how this year's donations went towards Muddy Waters, and it was pretty much non-existent, which, we're not the team that's going to beg for money. Everything that Dennis and I do, it comes out of Dennis's pocket or my pocket. When we do searches, stuff like that, it all comes out of our pockets to do it and make it happen. We are blessed that, the few times we have had some big, donations in the past, and, here and there we'll, get 10, $15. I think last year at the farm show, would we have like $60?
Yes, 63.
$63, and I think what did it cost us to get the internet in the booth so we could?
That was like $150, I believe.
Yeah, so we were upside down 100% just right there, So, but we're not. It would be nice. It would be nice if we had some kind of help, but we're not going to beg for it. If you find it in your hearts to reach out and help us, we would be blessed. But, I think a lot of people, we have lives. This is not our full-time job by any means. This is what we do on the side. you know, a lot of these other big teams, this is what they do full time, day in, day out. And unfortunately, that's not us.
It would be nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, it would be. I mean, if we could donate, you know, full time to this 100%, I mean, who wouldn't want to do the work of trying to help other people, you know? And that's where a lot of it comes down to is, you know, trying to do what's best, trying to help your fellow brother or sister, doing the Lord's work, helping out, you know, whatnot. But, you know, we don't quite have the support that we would like to have in this. You know, and, you know, we are blessed to have our usual people that are on with us. You know, we have the same basic core group that are here to support us, here to share Sunday night live with us when we are able to do it. We really wish we had more people, you know. And what is our current? We have what is the current channel members? I know you mentioned 2966.
That actually came up overnight. We're at 20, I believe it's 2971 now.
2,971 subscribers to the channel. But right now we have 6 people watching, you know, and I put it out on TikTok that we were going live on my Muddy Waters TikTok channel. You know, the notification's been up all day, you know, the stuff that Dennis has done, and that's it. I mean, I really wish we had more people that would be there to help us, be there to support us and help the channel grow. Because, you know, if you go back and you look at our videos and the views, I mean, there's some videos that we don't even get 20 views on, you know? So hopefully moving forward into 2026, we can make things change, happen. We can get better support. You know, hopefully.
And speaking of the views like that, anybody that's watching this that hasn't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit subscribe. When I go in and look at the numbers, most of our videos, about half of the views are from people not subscribed to the channel. So when you're looking at the number of subscribers and number of views, many of those aren't even subscribed.
Yeah.
So don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Yeah.
Very important.
For sure. So, you know, we would just, you know, hopefully moving forward, you know, we will get some better support moving forward. You know, this year has been a hard year. And as you know, we've had some losses with Dennis's family, with Dennis and Megan. And you know, with Chrissy, of course, with their mother, and of course, Dennis's mother. You know, I've dealt with my cellulitis infection in my leg. It seems like about every 3 months I have to deal with it. So hopefully moving into the next year, we'll be able to get back in, you know, on sync and, you know, start trying to hit Sunday night lives all the time. Hopefully, you know, even I can start doing videos again and we can move forward with, you know, more searches and stuff. You know, we just, that's all we can strive for and try to do. So.
See, and with searches, and as hard as this year was, we were still able to do some searches this year, including the search for Randy Leach, where we were able to clear that triangle property out there.
Yes, we did do, I mean, by all means, we did do some searches and stuff. But this year, unfortunately, we did more online searches, more, you know, investigative side. You know, the leads that came in, stuff like that. We did a lot of brainstorming sessions, looking at evidence, trying to make sense of stuff. Does this make sense? Can we add 2 and 2 and come up with 4 on, and I know that sounds silly to say it like that, but, just trying to make heads or tail of information on cases. We've had a lot of people make comments about Randy Leach's case, some other cases, and we just have to look at that. And, we have these powwow sessions of, okay, well, does this make sense? Can we make heads or tails of this? Let's look at it from a realistic evidence standpoint. Could this have possibly happened? So, we've dealt with that a lot, looking at stuff. And believe it or not, there is times where we go, we do watch other people's videos, and we do it for the research side of it to see what other people are posting in their comments. And it's no different than other people looking at our videos and looking at seeing what kind of comments we get. Because there is lots of stuff. I mean, there is people that have never seen our channel, have never seen our videos on a certain case. So it's a lot of research when it comes down to it of, making heads or tails. And, just unfortunately with stuff that happened this year, the way it did, and the losses that Dennis and Megan and Chrissy suffered, and, things that I did, we just weren't able to get out in the field and spend as much time as we would have liked, because family came first, and dealing with, all the stuff that has happened. So hopefully moving forward, 2026 will be better. We have tremendous amounts of places that need to be looked at, physically looked at. We have a really good lead on, oh Lord, I forgot her name. Dennis, the one that you all were friends with, the lady.
Star Boomer. Star Boomer.
Yes. So we have a really good location on that. And, this is a situation where we're going to shine, because when it comes down to it, we are going to have to take my equipment to this place. And more than likely, we are going to have to do some digging, excavating work. And that's where one thing we are blessed is, our group, we have equipment. I have loaders. I have excavators. We are blessed that we don't have to call somebody to come and do digging for us or do something like that. So hopefully, we're able to move forward with, her case and those searches. We have so many that, need to be done, and hopefully, we will be able to move forward,
See, and your knowledge with that equipment, that proved itself worthwhile when you and Tammy went down and did that search for Mark Fullerton that required extensive digging down there.
Yeah. We went down there. When we went and did that, we were under the understanding that I was going to do all the digging. They were going to have the equipment there. But unfortunately, Mark's stepfather, he did all the digging, which was totally okay. It was totally okay, because I physically laid on my stomach and was digging through a burn pile that was buried a couple feet down, and I was physically digging and looking for Mark's remains. I was in the burned trash, trying to make heads or tails. Is this bone? Is this trash? Is this sticks? So yeah. but yeah, on doing stuff and looking, we are in that part. We are blessed to have that kind of equipment at our hands. We just, we really would like to have GPR. That's something that Dennis and I have talked about so many times. Um, we do have the boat, we do have sonar and stuff. I just would like to, hopefully move forward with getting something a little bigger so we can, multiples of us can go out and work, and work together versus, one person being on the boat and everybody else, on the sideline. Well, and it's, I imagine trying to drive, trying to look at the screen, trying to pay attention to everything would be a little difficult. So that is something, that moving forward, we would definitely like to do for sure,
And
is to
that
obtain
would
those.
also benefit. We've got some searches coming up that it would greatly benefit to have a regular boat like a flat bottom that somebody could be on running sonar, but there's still some areas in the same spot that, like the inflatable, would be a better option to get into and have two boats going as well and covering twice the territory
Yeah.
on our bigger locations.
Yeah.
Because
I think a lot of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
the inflatable itself, without any gear or equipment on it, once it's aired up, is roughly 140 pounds. So dragging that through, even with wheels, with all the equipment and stuff to get some of these locations, it is rough.
Yeah.
One spot in the Randy Leach case, we've tried getting to a couple times now with it, and it just wasn't possible. Having a flat bottom styled boat, there is a boat ramp a few miles away on the river that kind of boat we can get in on the river and go the whole distance with, not have to worry about it, versus an inflatable with everything on that river, getting miles away from the vehicles and then busting a hole through it kind of leads you up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah. Well,
Up
we'll
the creek
just,
without a boat.
yeah. Well, like I said, hopefully, we can make some adjustments coming up for next year. On our actual physical search side. I would like to, something else. I know it seems silly is, I hopefully this upcoming year I will be able to build my shop, and I would really love to build us a studio, a legit nice studio, and try so we could do our Sunday night shows together, um, you know, and try to do those shows where we're all together in the same room. And then, throughout the week, Dennis does his stuff at his house. I do stuff here. But that's something, that we would like to do. And then I guess, why don't you talk to him about the certificates and stuff? Why don't you bring that up?
We have been looking at, or Alex and I have talked about this for quite some time now. And we finally moved forward with getting more certifications. I know the last couple days I was able to complete 4 different certifications. Alex is going to be getting these. There are more that I'm going to be doing. Some of our other team members will be doing. And this basically helps us grow our knowledge and potentially help us be even better at what we do. I mean, anytime we have a chance to learn and to better ourselves with that, kind of comes with the territory. We
Yeah.
need to do that to be more efficient and to help more families. And
Yeah.
so far, it's going really good.
Yeah. So definitely, that's something that, we are working on. Um, something else that we would like to work on, which this is kind of odd. Um, we would like to have, how do I say this? And I'm not trying to say it like in a mean or a negative way, but we would like to have people, because like an example is we don't, I'm not a diver. I absolutely do not like dark colored water. I know it sounds silly, but I'm just not a fan of ponds, rivers, nothing like that.
He doesn't
Um,
even swim in them.
yeah, I guess I'm silly. But, we've had some people come in and out of Muddy Waters' life. And, whether we've met them through the internet, YouTube, we have actually physically met people at the farm show who did diving and who offered to help us. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's people, we don't, when we do stuff, we don't ask for any kind of money whatsoever. And I don't know if it's when you try to work with other people who do this same type of stuff, or people who are full-time divers. I'm just not quite sure what the issue is, but we seem to get ghosted a lot. People won't return our phone calls. Multiple situations have happened. And unfortunately, we need that kind of help in our team for situations, because moving forward with times where we need that, we kind of hit a roadblock, unfortunately. So that's something that, of course, moving in the future, we would like to find somebody that truly would help us. With that part of the search and recovery stuff. I'm not sure where Dennis went. I don't know if maybe his pizza rolls are done and he had to go pull them out of the oven. But anyways, so that is something with us moving forward that hopefully, we can become friends with somebody that will have our back and help us. I don't understand why we've had so many people come in and out, ghost us, leave, and that's it. We don't ever hear from them again. And I don't know why. So, hopefully that is something that we can make happen this upcoming year. You know, I guess we put a lot of faith in people, and I always try to think the best of everybody. I always try to feel that, everybody, I want everybody to have everybody's backs. If people would call us and say, "Hey, Alex, we got a situation. Can you come dig for us?" I mean, I would be there in a heartbeat. Whether it was something close or we needed to drive there and get a piece of rental equipment or something like that. I wish that we could have that kind of camaraderie, I'll help you, you help me, type things. we had another incident with somebody else that we asked to come in and help us with on a case, and that situation went straight downhill with the missing person's family. This person that we asked to help ghosting us, basically. That whole scenario went south, unfortunately. And Dennis had a great relationship with this person, I thought. And it just went south. It went south in a hurry after this, on-site search and stuff, which is, I don't know. I don't know why this person's whole demeanor changed. I never talked to this person. Dennis was, you're back, Dennis. Dennis was the one that always had the contact discussing with, discussing ideas, cases, things that we might need help with. And this person seemed, gung-ho about helping. And, once again, I'll help you, you help me, we work together type things. And it went straight south in a hurry, and we got ghosted. Dennis asked for the images and stuff that he did to share with us. This person never gave them to us. The family was upset. And it was definitely a valuable lesson learned, which on the negative side makes you not want to work with anybody. It doesn't make you want to ask for help, but unfortunately we do need some of that kind of help, because it's something that we can't do. We don't have a diver. We don't have those skills. I mean, Dennis has done some of that stuff in the past. And I think in the future, if we do move forward with adding people to the team, and we actually had a member of the team, and that was something that they did as their specialty, whether they were a honest, their job is being a diver, their job is rescue diving, with a fire department, a water rescue team, or it's just something that's their hobby and they don't have a problem doing it. I think a lot of people, and this is something I did think of, because I think one of the groups of people that we had met at the farm show, and you might have to help me remember this for 100% for sure, but I think one of those groups, they were on a water rescue team. They did that kind of stuff. And I think the other group, the couple, I think they were hobby divers. And right. I feel that maybe once they realized what they had offered, maybe they realized that finding somebody in the water might not be something that they mentally could deal with.
Right.
And that might be why those people kind of just ghosted us, wouldn't return calls, something like that. Because all these people that we ever talk to, like at the farm show, that come up to us, I mean, they always handed out numbers, emails, were so chippy, gung-ho to help, and it's just, bye, see ya. After that, it was nothing. So, I don't know.
We did have some at the farm show, one in particular that everything this person talked about didn't really fit with how things work. And I think that when that person wanted to feel involved in something like this, which in a way I'm all about, because that's still putting focus on the missing people. But I think there's some people out there that they want to be involved, but they, I guess, don't know how to be involved, that kind of thing. And that their mouth kind of runs away with them a bit on it. I think they
Yeah.
had good intentions. I think they just bring it out wrong.
Yeah.
Then there's some of them that is just a complete mystery, because some of them there, that just absolutely floored me. Just like the other individual you're talking about, conversations were great. Um, this person seemed very knowledgeable. Um, had seemed like this person had a heart wanting to help these families. From what the family has told me from the particular search, not a lot took place. Um, just really upsetting. The family's upset, still are. I'm upset because I see that as a wasted opportunity. You know, if you're a search team and you go to a location saying, you know, I'm bringing this, and that, I'm going to do this, and that, you show up to that location and didn't even bother to bring your gear. You didn't have any thought of actually doing a legitimate search to start with.
Well, I think too the whole the whole story of this person said they didn't own a boat when it was quite clear when you watch that channel that this person always has a boat with them and it's the same boat, you know? So I think that kind of put a really sour note with the family starting right off.
Right, because that boat, he put his sonar on that boat. He could have had that location searched 20, 30 minutes and had been able to see if something was there. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have been a very simple search on that particular boat. Now,
Yeah.
granted, you're only going to see what's on the bottom. You're not going to see under the soot and the ground, but you're going to know if there was anything visible.
Yeah. I mean, it would be kind of like with us that if somebody reached out to Dennis and said, "Hey, Dennis, you know, can you and Alex come? You know, we've got a situation where we have detected something with GPR. We're looking somebody that, you know, does missing people stuff, and they have equipment to dig. Can you please come help? We need your help working this case." Sure, we show up and we're like, "Where's the equipment?" And then they're like, "Oh," and then we're like, "Oh, well, I don't have no equipment." You know, I mean, it was just a terrible situation. Did we learn something from that? Yeah. Um, and I don't know why this person. The only thing, I mean, we can speculate. We can speculate that other people out there that we have dealt with, that possibly could have said stuff to this person, and that's why this person has changed and how they deal with this. Logically, that to me could only be the possible answer, because I don't see how someone could talk to somebody, you know, be very gung ho, very friendly, informative, discussing cases, everything, and then at the flip of a switch, just change.
Yeah.
You know,
And
and that's
bringing that other case up in that scenario you just painted, if anybody from that case is watching this, we haven't given up on that case. We're not going to give up on that case till that missing person's brought home. And regardless of answers that law enforcement get based off of what is found when this individual is found, it's on them. Hope the best for you, but we're not giving up on that case.
yeah. Yeah.
Feels like a good night for venting.
Well, in the same token, it's like I had discussed with you, and this is not like I don't want people to think this is like silly high school drama, because it's not. But I never understood why, if this person was in town and we had the relationship that you had with this person, I can't believe that when they weren't in town that they didn't reach out knowing that they're only 45 minutes away and say, hey, do you want to meet for a cup of coffee? Do you guys want to meet up for dinner? We can meet each other for the first time. Yeah, nothing, never, ever.
Because even, hey, I'm doing a search on a case that you've done searches on. Could we meet up and discuss where you've searched and
Exactly.
ideas? And
Yeah, hey, let's this is what I've worked on this case. These are some of the clues, the leads that I've got. What do you got? Blah blah blah. Share ideas. What? Let's not double triple search the same area 10 times. But yeah.
and
So
this coming February makes 5 years that Muddy Waters has been here. And one of the things I think that has shocked me so much through all of this is a competitive competition between some of the teams that they have to be the one to find the missing person. That's got to have their name attached as being the one, to the point that there's times that it has filled social media with so much drama, backbiting. I mean, as you're saying, high school pettiness.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're not proving anything. All you're doing is hurting the families who have a missing loved one and is depending on you to help them.
Yeah.
That has been the biggest surprise I think I've had in these almost 5 years. Is just some of and it's not every team out there. There is some really good teams out there, but it's just unreal, the whole competitive spirit.
Yeah. Well, we've had, one of our main cases, probably, I don't want to put this person on a pedestal, but they were the premier probably search team at that time. And they made some accusations, rumors. I jumped in on social media, put a realistic spin on it, and they didn't like it. They didn't like it that I voiced my opinions. And soon after that, I was banned. I was banned from multiple situations that dealt around that family and that search team. And all I did was put a realistic spin on the discussion from an excavator's point of view who does excavating, exhuming type work. And the situation at hand with digging in a creek and a river and doing stuff. And all I did was put a realistic spin on it. And that person, that search team, did not like that I had voiced my opinion. Basically put me in my place. And then the missing person's family, same thing. And then I was exiled. I was sent to Siberia.
You even shared links, photographs, everything, trying to show them that what you're saying isn't even just Alex saying it. Here is documented proof straight from the source, and it still went that way.
Yeah, and I did. I I didn't just ramble and say, oh, this. No, I actually Googled images. I looked stuff up. I presented my evidence to my to their discussion, and they didn't like it. So
See, and Mac has a good point here. Competition is the reason that a few different teams had disappeared from the public. They don't like working with others. I fully get that, because while we do need teamwork, everything that we have seen makes it really hard to trust. I mean, there are some out there that I trust wholeheartedly. There's some out there that I wouldn't trust to turn my back on for 2 seconds. I mean,
yeah,
just unbelievable.
Well, there was, like one time you and I discussed certain search teams. Was the only cases, and this is definitely not us, but I wholeheartedly believe that there is only search teams that go through and look for cases with huge rewards. That's the only thing they're looking for, is cases with huge rewards, so there is a payday. So not only are they reaping the benefits of doing well on YouTube and making some kind of residual income, but yeah, they are definitely only after cases where there is payouts, And I even asked Dennis one time, him and I were having a discussion, and I said, this particular person that's doing these searches, I said, is it me, or are they only searching for people that have big payouts? Some of them, it looked that way. Some of them I thought they were, but they weren't. So, trying not to be judgmental in some of these situations, but sometimes it really looks like it. So,
and Mac, I think I know a couple of those teams, and they were,
are we
to
there?
me, they were legitimate. Their hearts were in the right place. They were trying to do right by the missing people.
Oh, yeah. I believe that everybody that starts out in this is doing it 100% for the right reason. I wholeheartedly do. But I don't think that, I think at some point it switches. I think it switches to where they are looking for cases with big payouts. I think that the cases where there's no payout whatsoever, I think those cases are just bypassed. Which, I think everybody that's missing should have the same, what's the word I want to use? The same respect, I guess, maybe. The same respect for people to put the same kind of effort. Because, not every person that's missing has some kind of government agency, state agency to put reward money. Not everybody's families are somewhat wealthy or just wealthy and have the resources to throw out big money for search teams or private investigators. So,
see, and another thing is, many of these cases don't have enough public knowledge that the family could even get a proper GoFundMe to help with covering costs, because nobody's covering those cases.
Yeah. And
And
we definitely learned our lesson on the GoFundMe, and we're not going to name names, but definitely money that was raised on GoFundMe for us, and we never saw a dime of it.
Yeah.
And I guess in a way, I take a little responsibility because the family did try to pay me that money that they raised for us for our fuel, our motel rooms, etc. Um, and I was trying, I don't know what's the word, but I was trying not to put the money as the importance when Tammy and I and the others had traveled out of town to do this. And one of the family members said, "No, let me pay you, let me pay you." And I said, "No, let's just wait till we're done. You can pay me later. You can send me a check." Okay, okay. And after that, anytime, I had mentioned it, or, Dan was involved with us at that time. Dan had brought it up. There was always some kind of excuse. And then we later found out that the money was gone. So,
And the cost that you paid to do that trip, to do that search, because that was a multiple day search, then they actually raised a pretty significant amount to reimburse you on that. And then just poof, it was gone.
Yeah, I think that weekend, we had 2 motel rooms. We had 2 carloads of people that I took with us. So I was paying double for everything. I paid for all the motel rooms. I think I paid the other people that were with us. I think one night they paid for dinner, but I tried to pay for all the food, breakfast, lunch, drinks, dinner, for fuel. I tried to be the host of asking for help and trying to take care of everybody. I think I want to say I spent, I don't know, 1,500, basically from Friday afternoon to Sunday night.
I thought it was a lot more than that.
Honestly, it might have been. Honestly,
I thought it was like around 2,200 to 2,500, something like that.
It very well could have been. I mean, we did stay at decent. We didn't stay at, Uncle Ray's cabins. We stayed at a nice hotel, stuff like that. So it very well could have been. I honestly do not remember. That's been what, 2 years ago, or
3 years, I believe it was.
Yeah. So,
and that was a pretty lengthy drive for you guys too.
It was by all means. We went a couple states away. But 100%, once again, I wasn't doing it for the money. And of course, if it was about money and getting paid, I'd have been like, "Oh, I'm not doing anything until I have a check in my hand."
Right.
And, I was with the family and trying to put them first and the missing person, and just
you took the time, you put the effort forward, you paid the expenses to do it, being told one thing, and then turns out that they basically used you and your efforts to basically help themselves financially. And it, at the end of the day, had nothing to do with you and your efforts. It was, how can we gain more money out of this situation? And that's what they did.
And that's kind of where it kind of makes me want to feel like, it's not, it's just, it needs to be 100% donation. Yeah. Having some money put back in your pocket for what you put out is great. But, I don't know. I guess, once again, I shouldn't judge all families that's what's going to happen.
Right.
You know,
Ye-
when we used to do the digital billboard stuff, and I paid for that out of my pocket. Um, I spent tremendous amounts of money with Blip digital billboards, and I did missing people cases for cases that we were working on. I would go and see if they had digital billboards for rent, and I would do billboard missing people. And like I said, I spent quite a bit of money. Um, and never once asked for payback. I never asked for anything. Um, I ended up having two situations happen. One was with a case where uh, the billboards were brought up and somebody else took credit for doing it. And I said I was the one doing it, and I had proof of the receipts and the screenshots of the billboard designs. And then I had issues with Blip, and Blip tried telling me that I couldn't do certain missing persons cases and certain situations. So I just totally walked away from Blip, which at first it was great. It was a great relationship working with them. But then I don't know if they got caught up in it and seen. I'm not sure exactly what went wrong with them. But they started telling me that I couldn't do this, or I couldn't do these cases in certain areas, and I couldn't do this. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'll find another avenue, another digital billboard company. And that was it. Walked away, and I was done with Blip. So,
Hey, I got a question for you on that.
yeah.
The same particular case that somebody tried to take credit for the billboard that you did is the same case that potentially could have had somebody basically trash talk us to the other individual that ghosted us. Do you think that they could have contacted Blip and talked some trash or something, and that could be why Blip did that?
No, I don't. I don't think that search team person with that particular missing person's case's family, I believe there was some interaction with them which led to us getting ghosted, basically you getting ghosted, because you were the contact with him and his team. I believe there was some interaction like that, but I don't believe that family called Blip and caused any problems. I don't think that at all. I think the issues came when, and once again, forgive me, this is another case I can't remember, but it was the girl who was missing over in Independence, Raytown, Swope Park. She was the girl that was seen on the Ring doorbell camera and then got into like a BMW car. She was one of our cases. She had pretty tattoos. I did digital billboards for her, but I don't think at the time she went missing, I think she was 17, but I think she was technically 19 or 20 at this point. She had been gone for a couple of years, maybe. There was something where they told me that I couldn't do missing billboards on people that were underage. And I said, well, wait a minute. I said, okay, the time that they went missing, yes, they were underage. They are still missing. They have not been pronounced deceased. And at this point, they are now 20 years old or 21 years old. I said, they are as of age And I said, there should be no reason why I can't work on their behalf and try to help bring some kind of closure to them and their family. And the first go around, they said, you know what, you're right. They let me do her missing billboards all over the Kansas City metro area, and then they took them down. And then I emailed them and I said, why did you take them down? And they said, well, you can't do this. We're not going to allow you to do this. Well, at that same time, I had some other billboards in other states for missing people, and they started taking them all down. And I said, why are you taking them all down? And they said, well, at this current time, we're not going to allow you, to do this any longer. And I argued with them, and I'm like, this person's 30 some years old. This person's 50 some years old. I said, what do you mean? I said, why are you, I'm trying to do something positive and help these families and bring closure. And it was pretty much after that last go around that I ended my relationship with them.
Yeah.
And they actually sent me an email about a month ago asking if I would like to do some billboards. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is just an automated response, because I really don't think you understand how the last go around ended.
Yeah, if we do more billboards, it'd be through a different company. It'd be through your competitor.
But while it was going on, we were making what I thought was great progress with trying to spread awareness for missing people in certain areas. I know we have, we did have Joanne Conger on tonight, I believe. Did I see her name?
Yes.
I thought she was on here.
Yeah, she said better late than never, trying to get Christmas chaos in some sort of order.
Yes. So her relative was Rachel Conger, and I did billboards for Rachel. And I was lucky enough that we were able to get some billboards within a very close proximity to where Rachel had gone missing. And it worked great. They went off. I did quite a bit on her behalf. And unfortunately in the end, it all went south. But, that was a case where it worked out great. Sometimes we had cases and there was no billboards anywhere near where the person went missing. Chance Engelbert, I tried to do billboards for Chance Engelbert, and unfortunately where he went missing, in Nebraska, the closest one was like 200 and some miles away. So, I honestly thought we're nowhere near where he technically went missing. So would it have truly helped one way or not? So, and that was kind of the thing, is there would be areas where there was billboards where Blip had rented space. So Blip was kind of like a subcontractor through the billboard companies. They would buy time on digital billboards, and then they would turn around, sell that time, make a profit on selling their time that they had rented. So you were subcontractor. So, but yeah. So, and I hope someday we can find another company that does that, and they would work with us and allow us to do that, because it is a great way to get missing people out there in the public's eye, especially the morning rush hour, 6 to 8 a.m., lunchtime when people leave work to go eat lunch, and also, rush hour, dinner time. And also, I think the 9:30 to 11 o'clock was a hot time. And also on the weekends, I want to say from like 9 to like 3 a.m. was another hot time because people who were out, whether they were out, having dates with your friends, hanging out, partying, going to bars, whatnot. Those Friday night and Saturday night times were hot times to do advertising, because of traffic numbers.
Are you planning another trade show? Oh man, we're going to be at the Western Farm Show this coming February. That's the same one that we've been to the last couple years. And again, that farm show was incredible. Thousands of people got to see flyers of missing people that may have never seen the flyers anywhere else. A lot of great interactions, a lot of interactions that led nowhere, but a lot of interactions that lead to more information on some of our cases. So I'm really looking forward to another year at the farm show.
This year they have built a new American Royal complex at the Legends area in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. And everything was going really well. I mean, they've built the buildings, they were doing stuff, and I'm not sure what happened, if it was financial situation or whatnot, but it pretty much stopped. I drive there quite often, and I went past there twice last week, and I told Dennis, I'm like, it's a ghost town up there. There's nobody working. The gates are locked in the middle day.
J.E. Dunn's pulled out everything.
So, something has happened, and I think Dennis had saw that they switched the address back to the original American Royal Complex building, which is downtown Kansas City, Missouri. It's on the west side of downtown Kansas City, Missouri. It's down the rail yards area. It's where the what we grew up with calling Kemper Arena, and I'm not sure what it's called now, but it looks like we're going to be back at the original American Royal Complex. So, there's some other shows that I would like to try to attend this winter, because in the wintertime here is when we always have our trade shows. We have the farm shows. We have one here. We have one in Topeka, Kansas. There's the boat and RV show. It used to be called the Boat, RV, and Outdoor Fun Show, I think. Is that what it was called, Dennis?
I think so. And
then there's the Home and Garden Show. And then there's the KC Homes Show. So there's lots of trade shows where technically we could do a lot of good when it comes to spreading awareness. The problem is most of them are, $500,000, $600,000, $800,000 to rent a booth space. At the farm show, our space is $700. But we are blessed that, we work with them. They do allow us, they sponsor our booth space. But as you all know, if you've been around, you follow the channel, we do spread awareness of the farm show and what's going on, to make sure that we do our part to let people know that, hey, come to the farm show. It's just not about agricultural and ranch stuff. They do have other things there to look at. And it is a great show. There is a tremendous amount of people that come through there. Usually Fridays are school-related functions where schools bring the kids. And then, of course, Saturday and Sunday is the big family, adult-type people that are there. But, it is a farm, agricultural, ranch-related type trade show, but it's been going on in the Kansas City area I've been going to it my whole life, and I'm 51 now, I think I'm 51. Maybe I'm 52. I don't remember. But but I've been going to it my whole life. I remember going to it when I was a young child with my dad. So but it's a great show to go and talk with people because anybody and everybody is always there. So it's a great way to spread awareness. And we've always had great communication with the public at that show. There's always been people that come up and they're like, hey, I remember that person went missing, or hey, I remember this one lady that we talked to last year. She told us that her dad and uncle used to work the Kansas City, Missouri. Wait a minute. Let me think how she worded this. She worked the Missouri River from downtown Kansas City, where the Kansas River and the Missouri River meet, all the way to, oh Lord, I can't remember that town's name, but her dad and uncle was the ones that the cops would call to pull bodies out of the river. Whether people washed up because something happened or they unalived themselves. So, like we said, we've met people that were divers that offered to help and things go south. We've talked to other people that have done missing people stuff. But a lot of times, people will just come up and, we take one of the TVs with us. We take a TV with us. Dennis has shows, basically pre-taped, and we put them on the laptop, hook it to the TV, and we cycle it through. And usually people will come and they'll start watching it. Then they'll start asking questions. We always take shirts and koozies and, stuff that Megan has made. And, we give it away. We also do a lot of, if you've ever been to trade shows, people always give away candy. They always give away something. So we would buy a couple big giant bags of candy, like Halloween style candy, where you get multiple different things. And we printed off business cards, and we would tape candy to those business cards, and we would put them out on our table. So, it's just another way of working with the public, trying to get them to look at the website, trying to get them to look at the Facebook, the social media pages, YouTube, anything and everything. I got to grab my phone cord again. I had to unplug it, and now my phone's getting ready to die. My phone's at the point where if it gets down really low, it won't hold a charge. And no matter how much you try to charge it, it doesn't want to charge unless you just leave it alone all night. But yes, westernfarmshow.com. Dennis just posted that.
It's a good time. They got stuff there for everybody. Plus, they got good food there.
Oh, yeah. Food. I mean, they have clothing. They sell not like food as this, like, going up and buying nachos or a cheeseburger. They have people there physically selling all kinds of different food that they make. Like one of my favorite places is the homemade pies. Hand pies. So there's a company that shows up and they probably bring a couple thousand, little apple pies, cherry pies, chocolate pies. And I think they charge $2 or $3. It's like something it's bigger than like an apple pie at like McDonald's. If y'all remember like a Hostess, the old school Hostess pies, something like that size. But, there's always all kinds of vendors, things that are not necessarily farm related. So yeah, I would really love to try to be able to get in with like the home show and the boat RV outdoor fun show, because that one brings a tremendous crowd also, and that one goes to I believe it is Bartle Hall, if
Yeah.
it's still called Bartle Hall.
Yeah.
But I don't, I don't know. I don't know if they would help us because, once again, if they tell us it's, $500, $700, $1,000 to have a booth space, that's something we have to pay for out of our pocket. So
they did the first year that we were at the farm show. Within a couple days of that, the Home and Garden reached out to me and invited us in to have a booth there. And I asked him how much it costs. And he's like, well, how much did it cost you at the farm show? I'm like, well, these good people, they donated the booth itself, the space to us. We paid for electricity. So he was going to talk to his boss to see what they could do to work with us. And just the time frame, because that year it took place like a week or two after the farm show. And by the time they contacted me and our communications back and forth, by the time he can get a hold of me again, they were already running the show. So I'm going to reach back out to them probably this week and see what we can work with them.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, like what Dennis said, we had to pay for our electricity in our booth. We had to pay for internet. Or no, maybe we didn't pay for internet. Maybe we just paid for the electric, and that they do have internet there for free, but it's like slow-mo, super slow speed. And then if you want I think if you wanted a hardwired dropped for the internet, I think it was something crazy.
Yeah.
Was it not like $800 or $1,000 for the weekend to have a hardwired internet?
I believe it is.
Yeah, but I think the power was like 150, to have the cord drop so we could run and be able to run the laptop and the TV, constantly. So, but yeah, go ahead.
The bad part is in that building, we don't have phone signal. So
no.
I wanted to do a live feed while we were there at the booth, and we got no phone signal in there. So I've been unable to do that. But this year, I've done some small videos, but this year we're going to do a long video in there and then release that to you guys once we do get out of there.
Yeah, I definitely, I think we did go live, but we did it outside in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I think we walked outside and went and did it. So, but yeah, I would definitely, I truly did want to go live inside, and talk to people and, do our stuff. But unfortunately, there's just that basic internet. There is just not enough oomph to go live. So, worst case scenario, we'll just go live out in the parking lot and talk and go back in and, do stuff like that. But,
and I'm going to take a tripod this year so that way I could set up recording for a while and be able to let everybody see interactions and all the people that come through, because there is a lot of people that come through there.
Oh yeah. But the big home and garden shows, I guess I'd have to look up statistically if there's any kind of attendance numbers, but I honestly bet it's kind of got the same numbers. It might actually have more.
Right.
But once again, it would be a great place to spread awareness with cases, with videos running constantly with flyers, having flyers to hand out or have on display. I would like to have a banner made to hang up that has some of, I guess I can't say like the top rated missing people case of, Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, because really, I mean, you can't really say someone's more important than somebody else. The sad thing with missing people is something that I've learned, and I've shared it with Dennis multiple times, is as over time, cases that are older that are not solved, this is really odd to say this, but as the older cases get older, those people's relatives are getting way older and they're not on social media. So there's no awareness being brought to these older cases, and I've had some discussions with people and they're like, well, yeah, but this person was 50, 60 years old when they went missing 30 years ago, 40 years ago. They're more than likely, if they were alive, they are already deceased, and that's the hard part about it. Because, we've had cases that have come up where in the end they have been gone for 20, 30, 40 years. And we do find out that they just got up and left. They went to Florida. They went somewhere else and started over in life, either because of spousal issues, some kind of violence, threats, etc. So, it's crazy to look at that and think, well, do we give this case more attention? Do we give this case more attention? Because, yeah, this person, they might only be missing a month. Are they more important or any less important than someone that's been missing for 5 years or 50 years? The realm is, yeah, if they've only been missing for a couple weeks, there's a possibility that we could still find them alive. That they did just run away from home, or they did get nabbed by somebody and somebody took them somewhere else to live. And I guess that comes back to, the quicker you're able to get the word out, and Dan that used to be with this, that's where Dan, he shined. He is the absolute king of, the alerts, all that stuff, and getting out there and spreading awareness. Dan did an unbelievable job with that. When it came to, what is that called, Dennis? I forgot.
Missing in USA.
No, the alerts when they come up.
Amber Alerts.
Amber Alerts. Sorry, I totally spaced up. Forgot. So yes, Dan was unbelievable at the Amber Alerts and spreading awareness, whether it's Amber Alert, Silver Alert, whatnot. But I guess that's kind of like that show that we all used to watch, the first 48 hours, and that is true. If somebody's missing, somebody was unalive, the first 48 hours are the most crucial in getting, trying to find them alive, trying to find the person that committed the crimes, whatnot. So, but yeah, just trying to bring awareness to people's cases that are missing. I would love to do some kind of banner, like a 3-foot tall by 10-foot banner that had people's pictures, where they went missing from, the day, do however much space we could do it, however many cases would fit, to do something like that. I think that would be an awesome way to help spread awareness at trade shows. Because for one thing, the bigger, the more attention you can somehow get with flashing lights, something, a TV playing videos. That's what draws the people in. Because a lot of time people just look up, they'll see something, and then they'll just walk by. There's got to be something there to grab their attention, something to make them think for just a second and to grab their attention. So.
And you mentioned Amber Alerts, and so I wanted to bring this up. We've made it no secret we do not like classifying a missing minor as a runaway immediately without evidence to back it up. And for years, it seems many law enforcement across the country immediately go to that conclusion and almost automatically label them a missing runaway. Well, I was watching Kansas Missing and Unsolved's live feed the other night, and they brought this up, and I looked into it. The federal guidelines have changed on how law enforcement is to handle missing minors cases, and they are no longer supposed to immediately say a missing runaway. They are supposed to do a full investigation as they would any other case, and then follow the facts on where to go from there. So it appears finally changes are being made to drop that immediate classification. We have had cases that was immediately labeled runaway, and turns out this child was being trafficked. And one in particular, she went missing from Texas and was found days later with two older men in Kansas who planned to traffic her. And law enforcement had immediately classified her as a missing runaway. That classification all but stops any type of thorough investigation into that case. So if somebody hadn't have seen her flyer somewhere and called it in when they seen these people at the gas station, who knows what kind of life that girl would be stuck in right now, just because of that missing runaway classification. So thankfully that is changing.
Yeah. I know that Tammy had seen something earlier where I think she said a car got pulled over and there was a whole bunch of kids in it. And there was the sex trafficking stuff, and people were transporting. They had people lined up to buy. I think she said the whole thing, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible, And I guess in a way, when we look at that scenario and that situation, has that always been going on the entire time of society, basically? Have you ever really thought about that, Dennis, and thought, is this just something that happened in the last 10, 50, since, the internet, since 1993, 2, 4, 5, whenever the internet came out? Is this something that's just happened because of the internet and social media? Or is this something that's always happened? It just never had no public awareness. Nobody ever knew that this stuff was going on. What do you think about that?
I think it's been going on, not to get all religious on everybody, but even when you get back into the Bible days, there were forms of trafficking taking place even back then. I think it was after the internet come out and anything at all that you could think of is so easy to find anymore just on the internet. I think the internet caused it to not only explode in numbers and frequencies that we're seeing trafficking victims, the ease for traffickers to use the internet to do what they're doing, but also the public awareness. We've all become more aware with the internet. So I think it's kind of a mix of all of that.
It's understandable.
And Mac asked, is waiting 24 hours still a thing with law enforcement for missing people? No. You can report a missing person as soon as you know that they're missing now. You no longer have to wait the 24 hours. And Mac says the internet exposed everything.
I think it did. I think it definitely was a way to put the creeps together that had the same odd creep fetish situation. I don't know the right word to use. You know me. I always say that. I don't know the right word to use. But I think that definitely did do that. I thought, I think, and I still believe the internet has done wonders for things, and I also think it's done terrible things.
Yeah.
But we weigh things in this hand and we weigh things in this hand, and how do we make a decision which one is better? Because if you believe there's always good, there's always bad, there's always up, there's always down, there's always light, there's always dark. So unfortunately, it's just part of it, which is really sad. But I definitely believe that parents are too relaxed these days, which is crazy. It's crazy to say, because if you're my age, I remember going out and playing till dark. I remember, I'm not going to say I walked 2 miles to a friend's house in the dark or in the morning, in the summertime. I never did none of that stuff. But I remember going to the mall, and my mom would go into these shops, and I would say, Mom, or I'd be with my dad. I'm like, hey, can me and my brother go to the hobby store? And it's like, yeah, I'll be here at JCPenney's or Dillard's or Monkey Ward's or something. I want you back here in 30 minutes, or I want you back here in 1 hour. But I believe these days there is a lot of stuff going on. But is it, when you look back at it, are you saying, did times change socially in the world where there is more creeps now than there was back when we were young kids? Because there was still kids getting, nabbed. Kids were getting unalived. Terrible things were happening. But I think today's society, parents are just a little too relaxed. I think kids are too relaxed, not on guard enough. I do believe that for sure.
Yeah, there's too many distractions nowadays with the internet that it's, I guess, easy to get comfortable with. I know having 2 kids, sometimes it's nice to get some quiet time, and letting them watch a YouTube video gives you some quiet time. So it's easy to get relaxed with that, even overconfident to a point. But at the same time, like you're saying, there's danger out there, and you've got to be aware of it. You got to make sure your kids, depending on age, is aware of it. And, Brantley's 11 years old. He doesn't do anything on the internet that we're not checking and seeing what he's doing, make sure he's not talking to the wrong people. In fact, he shouldn't be talking to anybody but his sister and his cousins. But we were all kids before, and we all know the things that we would do to get around what our parents told us to do or not to do. And our kids today, they're probably a little better at that than we are. I know when it comes to the computer, cell phones, all of that, Cheyenne, she's 15 now, but from the time she was little bitty, she knew how all of that stuff worked. Even though she had never held one and could pick it up and operate it. It's almost like kids today are hardwired for it.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, you know, we as parents, we get too comfortable, too relaxed, and none of us can afford to do that. Not when it comes to our kids.
Yeah. I like Mac's comment that he made. Before the internet and cell phones, we were able to pay more attention to our surroundings.
That is very true.
I agree with that. I do. And it's, I guess I guess like when I do things and I drive, I'm always looking, I'm always watching, I'm always noticing things. And I think back before I had a cell phone. I think back to when, after high school, I went to work for my dad and my uncle in construction. I drove a dump truck. I had equipment. And I remember at first we didn't have phones, so I remember getting a list in the morning. Job 1, go here, clean up sheetrock, scrape floors, go to this job, pick up this trash, do this, go to this job, blah, 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 blah. And if you need to, you had a roll of quarters and you had to stop somewhere and use the payphone. Well, then I remember then we had phones, and then I remember we went to the big yellow Nextels that you could call on, or you could use like a walkie-talkie. So we all got Nextels. So that's what we had for the longest time. And then, of course, we got away from the Nextels and went to different phones. But, I look back at that and I think to myself, how in the world did we function without having a phone? And I remember going to work with my dad like in 88, 89. And I remember when he had a cell phone put in his truck. And I remember the big box electronic stuff was mounted underneath his driver's seat, and it was on a pedestal mount and it was in there. And I remember when somebody would call him, his horn would honk, and so you'd be on a job site, and if somebody called, the horn would honk and he'd go out and answer it. And then he went to a different version where he could disconnect the phone out of the truck and I guess carry it like a bag phone. I remember all that stuff, but I remember one time he let me drive his truck and I went somewhere, and I remember calling one of my friends and I thought, man, this is just so cool. I'm calling one of my friends at home, like, where you at? I'm like, I'm in my dad's truck. I remember that. It was so funny.
Then your dad gets that phone bill and is ready to whoop you.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I remember those crazy things, and I think back and I'm thinking, how did things happen? How did we go on? How did we talk to our loved ones? We had to wait till we got home or had to stop and use a payphone. And, it was just crazy. But macro, we had one of those phones that honked the horn, but it cost too much per minute. You had to find a payphone. Something else I do remember, which is funny you say that, is one of the companies that my dad and uncle bought drywall from. They were a drywall distributor here in Kansas City. They had a warehouse that was like the size of a Walmart building. And they had all their trucks in there, and they had, probably 1 million pieces of sheetrock in this building, and they had all the different kinds of mud and all the corner bead and taping material and the concrete board. And they had the grain board that was basically sheetrock with, that looked like paneling, paper glued to it. And I remember going to that place, and we would be there for like an hour and a half. And my dad would go in there and he'd order his materials, and then he would use their phones and make phone calls for like an hour. And I would always, when I would go to work with my dad when I was younger, 9 times out of 10, I always took some of my RC cars with me because I could play in the dirt on the job site. And I remember playing inside their warehouse with my RC cars while my dad was inside on the phone, because it did cost a lot to use that phone in the truck. It really was like kind of like an emergency situation. If not, he would use it somewhere where he was at, if they had a phone in an office or, a conference area or something like that. So I do remember that now to think of it. Then we had the 2-way radios that were wired into the business trucks. Yep. For sure. For sure. Let's see. Well, it looks like we still have 6 people with us right now. 6 people watching. So,
radios. I miss having an old CB radio in the vehicle.
Yeah, I honestly think I only had one in my truck in high school for just a little bit, and that was it. Because I had some friends that had them, but we didn't have them very long. And I honestly can't remember why, if it was not that good a signal, or it only did any good if you were close to your friends. It's not like you could be clear across town and go out to your truck and be like, hey, what are you doing right now? It was easier just to go call somebody when you got home. And of course, back in the day, we had better memory because we didn't have to remember phone numbers like you do. Now you just put the name in there, the number, you save it, and then you never have to remember their phone number. You just click on their name and hit call or whatnot. So that is for sure.
It took me forever to remember Megan's phone number because I put her in my phone and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. That's very true.
CDs, I miss those on trips, going down the hallway, getting a smoky report up ahead. It turns out that it was actual Smokey set up and caught you. That happened before.
That's pretty good. Yep.
I remember one of them, he come up to my window. He said, "You wanted a Smokey report. Here I am." Oh, man.
But, those days are long gone. Those type of things, that type of society that we lived in, a lot of that stuff is gone, and technology's changed so much, and I just wish we had some way technology wise to change things about missing people and how stuff happens and how we could do some other way. I was actually listening to a show. It was on an what is this YouTube channel? It's something cinema, but they mostly deal with paranormal, UFO, missing people. They deal with kind of the whole genre side of that and conspiracy. And there was a guy on there, and he was in the software development and security. And he said that in the late 70s, early 80s, that he was contracted by the U.S. government to make a trackable transmitter chip that could be implanted in your skin because they were having problems in the middle 70s, late 70s, early 80s. We must have had a lot of problems with senators and government people getting kidnapped, killed. There must have been something like that going on. High-ranking military, because this guy was contracted through the government, the federal government, to make some kind of little transmitter microchip that they would be able to implant in government officials. That way, if they were kidnapped, somehow they could trace that person. And kind of like that whole thing is if they could somehow trace somebody within a certain time frame, the chances of finding them alive, the statistics was way better versus just finding them deceased. So, but this guy talked about the whole conspiracy side, how it went from that to very terrible things, and how, they intentionally wanted to do it to help find people that would go missing, and it's, when you think about it, it's like, wow, that would be cool to have something like that. But then, people would be like, well, I don't want the government tracking me. I don't want the government tracking my child. You can't do it for the right reasons because it'll get turned into the wrong reasons and held against you possibly, or something like that. So, but this guy said that the little transmitter microchip, I want to say that he talked about like they could put like 20 of them on the size of an eraser or maybe a pencil lead head, and they just would implant it up under your skin. And he said they were developing it and doing it, and all of a sudden it went the wrong way, and the government ended it. But he says like they know that they took it and they ran with it. So it was really crazy. Max says we now use GPS to find people. I believe that between smartphones and smartwatches and, I know people, a lot of parents buy like the Apple AirTags, and they make like shoe inserts for kids' shoe to put Apple AirTags in. People sew in little pockets like in their coats or different garments and stuff, and they put them in, to try to keep track of their kids, stuff like that while they're at school, whatnot. What was the case of the kid? It's been on the national news. There's been lots and lots of stuff on social media, but he was the boy that went to school to do the science project, and his stepmom took him and then he disappeared, and the biological mom and the stepfather said that the stepmother had done something to him, but his body, he's never been found. You know which case I'm talking about?
I do, but I can't think of his name.
Oh, Tammy says it's Sebastian. What's his name? Sebastian
Rogers?
Is it Sebastian Rogers?
I don't know. I have to look it up.
But I know, like with that case, people had said something. Well, what if, this is a example that if he would have had something in his shoe, in his clothes, something that somebody could have tracked where he was at and what, like this, if if somebody didn't know that he had that, but that's a terrible, terrible case. Yeah, Sebastian Rogers, and he was autistic. I do remember that. I do believe from the stuff, because if I'm not mistaken, what's his name that used to be with Jared that quit when all that stuff happened with Jared? I believe he worked with Sebastian's mom. I'm drawing a blank again. I
Was
forgot
it the guy with the beard?
Yeah, that was up there from where Jared was. He used to be a tow truck driver.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And he's doing his own. He's what is he with now? The Missing People's Corpse or something. I can't remember what this new group of people that he works with now is called. But I think he did some work with Sebastian's biological mom and stepdad, going over the case, what happened, and how the stepmom they're pretty sure the stepmom had something to do with it. And oh Lord.
On Matt can't think of his name now either. Was it Doug? No, that don't sound right. Oh my goodness.
Was it Doug?
I know he's done some work down with Sunshine State Sonar down in Florida. He's been down there several times.
This guy's also done Doug Bishop. It is
Doug
right.
Bishop.
He's done a lot of stuff with the Diesel Brothers people, Dave Sparks and all them. Because they've done a lot of missing people stuff. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that Doug Bishop was the one that did the stuff with Sebastian's biological mom and stepfather. Going over evidence and possible, leads and locations and all that. So, yes, that is correct, Matt. He was a tow truck driver up there. Was it in Seattle or I don't think he didn't live too far from where Jared was, I think. I could be wrong, but it was somewhere up in the Northwest. So,
Oregon.
Yeah.
I know he really progressed from when because for a while he would operate the truck for him, but then he really got involved in the actual searches, got diver certification, and he really progressed and moved forward with that. And I'm glad he's still out there doing this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, we are 10 seconds away from possibly the video ending or the stream ending. So we'll see. Well, it's 2. We're still there. So we'll see how long before it shuts us off.
Yeah, it gets iffy after the 2-hour mark. Sometimes at 2 hours, sometimes at 2.5 hours, sometimes somewhere in between.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So, what are we? So at this point, like we said, we wanted to do a 3,000 member special episode. We've been talking about this for a year now. If we could just get the
Right.
So, hopefully we'll get some more members and we can try to have that 3,000 member special party.
That would be awesome.
We would love to do that. But yeah, then like Tammy says in the background, then we can try to shoot for 5,000. But it seems like literally the last 6 months, all we've done is go up 2 members, lose 3 members, go up 1 member, lose 2 members,
right?
Go up 8 members, lose 6 members. It's like we cannot get away from this 10 people up and down constantly. And I don't know if people, if you've noticed out there in the YouTube world, because I sure have. There's channels that I watch pretty religiously, and all of a sudden the channel's gone, and I have to physically go find it. And I stopped getting updates. I stopped getting alerts. So I don't know what's going on, but please, make sure your little bell icon is on, that you're getting alerts from us. Right now we have 5 people watching, so I'm talking to all 5 of you. Which, believe it or not, I'm one of those 5 because I'm watching on my phone as I'm watching on my laptop. So, but yeah, just make sure the bell icon is on so people are getting alerts. I know some of those channels I've had to unsubscribe and resubscribe and then re-hit the bell, and it seems to keep me in the loop now again. Yeah. So yes, please, of course, as always, we always ask to like and share. I know this video, we're not really going over a case in particular. We're just kind of catching up, talking, because it has been a while. We're just trying to, discuss a few more things that Dennis led off of last night in his discussions on the video that he done. So, I think, are we going to do some kind of little Christmas episode, or we'll just we'll talk a little bit of Christmas, talk a little bit of cases, and then hopefully starting in January, we can get back into Sunday night lives, and we can get back into weekly updates. Dennis and I trying to work together, get stuff presented, and just try to definitely get some ducks in a row come this spring when we can start doing some searches, and trying to work on some of these other projects like we discussed earlier, this remote control camera sonar boat, making a camera stick, stuff like that. So hopefully, we can get some of this stuff mocked up, tested, so on and so forth.
Seeing Jeff, the public hasn't got to meet Jeff yet. Jeff's been a member of our team for quite some time now. He recently brought up to us how we have the World Cup coming to Kansas City in 2026. And we talked a little bit about trafficking tonight, but that is a big deal that seems to really spike with big events like this. And Jeff asked if we could do a video or live feed where we go into, just an awareness video, go over the statistics, go over what we should all be looking for and watching for. I know where the World Cup's going to take place is just a hop, skip, and a jump from us.
Where is it taking place?
This is Megan was telling me it's down here by the Legends. There at the whatever that field's called.
Oh, wow. So we're actually having it at the Legends?
That's what Megan's told me. I haven't looked in to confirm that, but that's what they're telling me at work too. I think there's some people from work that's bought tickets or buying tickets to go to it. But yeah, it's going to be right over here.
Well, I know in the past, we have discussed major sporting events and people going missing. I don't think last year's Super Bowl, I don't think we looked at that city and those dates to see if anybody went missing. But you know what? We might look at that information, this upcoming week. And we might discuss that on our next live feed. And we might run some statistic numbers to present to all you over, the World Series, the Super Bowl, the soccer tournament stuff, and see what kind of numbers do show up if there is, which, I think people go missing. I can't remember what it was. I did watch something that said I can't remember. Maybe it was somebody's unalived every 50 seconds, or maybe it is somebody goes missing every 50 seconds. But I was watching some kind of documentary on Netflix, and they were talking about some statistic numbers. So definitely need to look into that and bring that to your all's attention, because it's just something to look at.
According to this, it'd be at Arrowhead Stadium, not over here by the Legends.
Oh, okay. Oh, and Mac just even put Arrowhead Stadium.
I'm a little bit more comfortable with that. That's a little bit further away from here. I don't like big crowds myself, so further from that, the better.
Yeah. Hey, I remember when we were little going to Arrowhead Stadium and watching the monster trucks in the summertime. Yep. Monster trucks and mud bogs in the at Arrowhead Stadium in the middle of summertime. Yep. So, well, Max says he's not a crowd person either. Yeah, it just, it just depends. As I get older, I guess I don't like to be around tons of people sometimes either as I get older. I know we went Christmas shopping last night, and it was pretty hectic for a while. So, but, well, I guess, I just want to thank everybody for being on tonight with us and, spending a little over 2 hours with us. We appreciate each and every one of you. As always, we always ask that you like and share, and you know, we just thank you for your support, you know, for sure.
Yeah, you guys keep us keeping on what we're doing, and you're just part of the team too.
You're breaking up, Dennis. Are you there?
I bet it's fixing to cut off on us.
No, it shows